The Three Magi Mysteries, written and published by Ngasline. Introduction to the Three Wise Men. The convergence of ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience reveals fascinating parallels that have remained hidden in plain sight for millennia. The story of the three wise men, or magi, who followed a celestial star bearing gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, contains deeper symbolic meanings that mirror the intricate workings of our brain chemistry and consciousness. Throughout history, sacred texts and esoteric teachings have used metaphor and allegory to convey profound truths about human consciousness and spiritual awakening. The three wise men represent more than historical figures. They embody fundamental aspects of our neurological architecture and the chemical messengers that facilitate expanded states of awareness. Modern neuroscience has identified numerous neurotransmitters and brain structures that work in concert to create our experience of consciousness. Among these, three key chemical messengers stand out: dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin. These substances, much like the gifts of the Magi, bring distinctive qualities to human consciousness. Dopamine, associated with reward and motivation, parallels the gift of gold. Frankincense, used in religious ceremonies to elevate consciousness, mirrors serotonin's role in mood and spiritual experiences. Myrrh, an ancient preservative and healing substance, corresponds to melatonin's protective and regenerative properties. The brain's sacred architecture includes specific regions that produce and regulate these vital chemicals. The ventral tegmental area and substantia nigra produce dopamine, while the raphe nuclei generate serotonin and the pineal gland secretes melatonin. These anatomical structures form a biological trinity that enables the full spectrum of human consciousness, from basic awareness to transcendent states of being. Ancient cultures understood these relationships intuitively, encoding their knowledge in mythology and religious symbolism. The Egyptian mysteries spoke of the Eye of Horus and the Third Eye, while Eastern traditions detailed the chakra system and Kundalini energy. These teachings weren't mere superstition, but sophisticated metaphors for neurological processes we're only now beginning to understand scientifically. The journey of the three wise men following the Star of Bethlehem parallels the inner quest for enlightenment. Just as they traversed vast distances guided by celestial light, we too must navigate our internal landscape, following the illumination of consciousness to discover our divine nature. The star itself represents the awakened pineal gland, often called the star chamber of the brain, which ancient traditions identified as the seat of the soul. Contemporary research into consciousness has begun to validate many ancient teachings about human potential and spiritual development. Studies of meditation, prayer, and altered states reveal measurable changes in brain chemistry and neural activity that correspond remarkably well with traditional descriptions of mystical experiences. The gifts of the Magi, gold, frankincense, and myrrh symbolically represent the chemical keys that unlock higher states of consciousness. Understanding these connections between sacred symbolism and brain chemistry opens new pathways for human development. It bridges the apparent gap between science and spirituality, showing that ancient wisdom and modern research are complementary approaches to understanding consciousness. The three wise men serve as guides to our own internal chemistry, pointing the way toward expanded awareness and spiritual awakening. This exploration of the three Magi mysteries reveals a profound synthesis of ancient wisdom and contemporary neuroscience. It demonstrates that the human brain is indeed designed for transcendent experiences, containing within its structures the very chemistry of consciousness. As we delve deeper into these mysteries, we discover that the path to enlightenment is not only a spiritual journey, but also a neurochemical transformation, guided by the eternal wisdom encoded in sacred traditions. The divine chemical trinity. The intricate dance between spirituality and science finds its most profound expression in the remarkable parallel between ancient sacred offerings and our brain's essential neurotransmitters. The three gifts brought by the Magi, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, mirror the three fundamental neurochemicals that shape our consciousness: dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin. Dopamine, often called the reward chemical, correlates with gold in its precious nature and ability to motivate and drive us forward. Like gold's enduring value throughout human history, dopamine has been essential to human survival and evolution, creating the desire to seek, achieve, and prosper. This neurotransmitter influences our pleasure centers, motor functions, and emotional responses, much like how gold has historically represented divine power, sovereignty, and enlightenment. Frankincense, with its ethereal fragrance rising toward the heavens, shares a symbolic connection with serotonin, the neurotransmitter associated with mood elevation and spiritual awareness. In ancient times, frankincense was burned in temples to facilitate communication with the divine, much as serotonin facilitates communication between neurons and contributes to our sense of well-being and transcendence. This powerful neurotransmitter influences our perception, mood, and ability to process sensory information, making it crucial for both physical and spiritual experiences. Myrrh, traditionally used in preservation and healing, corresponds to melatonin, the hormone responsible for our circadian rhythms and cellular regeneration. Just as myrrh was used in ancient embalming practices and healing rituals, melatonin works to preserve our bodies through sleep and restoration. This hormone, produced in the pineal gland, often called the third eye, regulates our sleep-wake cycles and plays a crucial role in our body's natural healing processes. The chemistry of consciousness emerges from the delicate balance and interaction of these three primary compounds. When dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin work in harmony, they create the optimal conditions for expanded awareness and spiritual experiences. This trinity of neurochemicals forms the biological basis for many mystical experiences reported throughout human history, from divine visions to deep meditative states. Modern neuroscience has revealed that these chemicals don't operate in isolation, but form a complex network of interactions. Dopamine influences serotonin production, which in turn affects melatonin synthesis. This interconnected relationship mirrors ancient wisdom traditions that speak of the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of balance in spiritual practice. The sacred geometry of these molecular structures reveals another layer of divine design. Each of these compounds possesses unique molecular arrangements that enable them to fit perfectly into their respective receptor sites in the brain, like keys into locks. This precision engineering at the microscopic level speaks to both the complexity and elegance of consciousness itself. Understanding this divine chemical trinity provides a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern science. It explains how traditional practices such as meditation, prayer, and ritual can influence our neurochemistry and, consequently, our consciousness. The burning of frankincense, for example, has been shown to have anti-anxiety properties that may influence serotonin levels, while the visual stimulus of gold can trigger dopaminergic responses associated with reward and motivation. This chemical trinity operates within every human being, regardless of faith or belief system, suggesting a universal biological foundation for spiritual experience. The ancient magi, in bringing their symbolic gifts, may have understood this connection intuitively, pointing to a deeper wisdom about human consciousness that science is only now beginning to unravel. Through this understanding, we can appreciate how our ancestors encoded profound truths about human consciousness in their religious symbols and practices, truths that continue to be validated by modern scientific investigation. Sacred anatomy decoded. The human brain, with its intricate network of neural pathways and specialized glands, houses three remarkable structures that ancient mystics recognized as sacred centers of consciousness: the thalamus, pineal gland, and pituitary gland. These three anatomical features correspond to the three magi of biblical tradition, each bringing their unique gifts to the temple of consciousness within. The thalamus, our first magus, serves as the grand relay station of sensory information. Like a wise gatekeeper, it processes and filters incoming data before distributing it to appropriate regions of the cerebral cortex. This structure, shaped like a twin-lobed egg, sits near the center of the brain and bears a striking resemblance to ancient descriptions of the third eye in Eastern traditions. The thalamus operates as a consciousness switchboard, determining which signals deserve our attention and which can remain in the background of awareness. Our second magus, the pineal gland, has captivated mystics and scientists alike throughout history. Referred to as the seat of the soul by philosopher René Descartes, this pinecone-shaped gland produces melatonin and regulates our circadian rhythms. The pineal gland's position in the brain, directly above the third ventricle, places it at a crucial geometric center that ancient cultures considered sacred. This gland's ability to produce dimethyltryptamine, during deep meditative states and near-death experiences has led many researchers to consider it the biological basis for mystical experiences. The pituitary gland, our third magus, rests in a small bony cavity at the base of the skull called the sella turcica, or Turkish saddle. This master gland orchestrates the entire endocrine system through its hormone production and regulation. Ancient texts often referred to this area as the divine throne, where consciousness meets matter. The pituitary's position and function make it a crucial bridge between the nervous and endocrine systems, creating a biological interface between mind and body. These three anatomical structures work in concert to create what mystics have long called the inner sanctuary. Their positioning forms a triangle within the brain, creating an energetic circuit that various spiritual traditions have recognized as sacred geometry in action. Modern neuroscience has begun to understand how these structures communicate with each other through both chemical and electrical signals, forming a sophisticated network that influences consciousness, perception, and spiritual experience. The thalamus, pineal, and pituitary glands each secrete specific neurochemicals that alter consciousness in unique ways. The thalamus influences attention and awareness through its regulation of neurotransmitter release. The pineal gland's production of melatonin and other compounds affects our perception of reality and our ability to access altered states of consciousness. The pituitary's hormonal orchestra conducts the body's emotional and physical responses, directly influencing our subjective experience of reality. Ancient cultures understood these relationships intuitively, encoding their knowledge in religious texts and spiritual practices. Their wisdom regarding these three sacred centers has been validated by modern scientific investigation, revealing the profound accuracy of their anatomical insights. The three magi of our brain anatomy continue to offer their gifts. The thalamus brings the gold of filtered consciousness. The pineal offers the frankincense of spiritual perception, and the pituitary presents the mirror of bodily transformation. Understanding these three anatomical structures as the three magi within provides a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience. This perspective allows us to approach both spiritual practice and scientific investigation with greater appreciation for the remarkable complexity of our neural architecture. The sacred anatomy encoded in our brain chemistry continues to reveal its mysteries, inviting us to explore the deeper dimensions of consciousness through both objective study and subjective experience. The Spinal Mystery School. The human spine represents one of the most profound and mystical structures within sacred anatomy, serving as both a physical support system and an energetic conduit for higher consciousness. Ancient wisdom traditions have long recognized the spine as a sacred chimney through which divine energy flows, connecting our earthly existence to higher realms of consciousness. In the esoteric traditions, the spine houses what is known as the Sushumna Nadi, a subtle energy channel that acts as the primary pathway for Kundalini energy. This vital force is often depicted as a coiled serpent resting at the base of the spine, waiting to be awakened and guided upward through each vertebral segment. The systematic awakening of this energy corresponds to the activation of various neural networks and the release of specific neurochemicals that facilitate expanded states of consciousness. The spine's role in consciousness extends beyond its metaphysical significance. Modern neuroscience has revealed that the spinal cord contains complex neural networks that process and distribute information throughout the body. These networks form an intricate communication system that connects the brain to every organ and tissue, creating a unified field of awareness within our physical form. This biological understanding adds depth to ancient teachings about the spine's role in spiritual awakening. The vertebrae themselves hold symbolic significance, with each segment corresponding to different aspects of consciousness and spiritual development. The 33 vertebrae align with various sacred numbers found in spiritual texts and traditions. For instance, the 7 cervical vertebrae correspond to the 7 classical chakras or energy centers, while the 12 thoracic vertebrae relate to the 12 disciples or 12 tribes in biblical tradition. Energy distribution through the spinal system follows precise pathways that ancient mystics mapped with remarkable accuracy. The cerebrospinal fluid flowing through the central canal of the spine carries vital nutrients and energy that nourish both the physical nervous system and what esoteric traditions call the subtle body. This fluid's movement creates rhythmic pulses that ancient texts describe as the tide of life or the waters of immortality. The spine's architecture reveals an intelligent design that facilitates both physical function and spiritual transformation. The intervertebral discs serve as shock absorbers and spacers, but in esoteric anatomy, they represent stages of initiatic development. Each disc space provides a chamber for energy accumulation and transformation, similar to the alchemical vessels described in medieval texts. Understanding the spinal mystery school requires recognition of its dual nature as both a physical structure and an energetic pathway. The nervous system's arrangement within the spinal column creates a series of nodes or ganglia that correspond to specific states of consciousness. These nodes act as transformers, stepping down higher frequencies of energy into forms that can be integrated into human awareness. The ancient practice of Kundalini Yoga developed specific techniques to activate and direct spinal energy flow. These practices recognize the spine as a living antenna capable of receiving and transmitting subtle energies. Through conscious breathing, meditation, and specific movements, practitioners learn to awaken and guide the dormant Kundalini force upward through the spinal channel. This upward movement of energy through the spine represents a systematic process of consciousness expansion. Each vertebral level crossed marks a new threshold of awareness, accompanied by specific neurochemical changes that alter perception and cognition. The 3 magi, represented by the thalamus, pineal, and pituitary glands, receive and process these ascending energies, translating them into states of higher consciousness. The spinal mystery school teaches that consciousness evolution follows a precise anatomical pathway, with the spine serving as both map and vehicle for this journey. By understanding and working with these sacred anatomical structures, modern seekers can access the same transformative experiences described in ancient spiritual texts. The integration of scientific understanding with esoteric wisdom creates a comprehensive framework for exploring the spine's role in human consciousness evolution. Neuronal distribution networks. The intricate network of neural pathways within our brain represents one of the most fascinating systems in human anatomy, and its connection to consciousness holds profound implications for both scientific and spiritual understanding. At the heart of this network lies the mysterious claustrum, a thin sheet of neurons that has captured the attention of neuroscientists and mystics alike. The claustrum serves as a central hub of consciousness, orchestrating the symphony of neural activity that gives rise to our awareness and spiritual experiences. The claustrum codes, as ancient wisdom traditions have long suggested, represent a deeper mystery within our neuroanatomy. This thin neural structure, positioned between the insula and putamen, acts as a consciousness switch, coordinating information flow between different brain regions. Modern neuroscience has discovered that the claustrum maintains widespread connections throughout the cortex, suggesting its role as a potential seat of consciousness, a concept that ancient mystics seems to have intuited thousands of years ago. Intriguingly, the etymological connection between the claustrum and Saint Claus, Santa Claus, reveals a hidden wisdom preserved through cultural mythology. The word claustrum, meaning barrier or enclosure in Latin, shares its root with Santa's domain, the hidden, mysterious North Pole. This connection suggests an ancient understanding of the claustrum's role as a gatekeeper of consciousness, much like how St. Nicholas serves as a mystical distributor of gifts to the worthy. The neural pathways of enlightenment extend from the claustrum through elaborate networks that connect various brain regions. These pathways form what ancient texts often referred to as the golden threads of consciousness. Modern neuroscience has mapped these networks using advanced imaging techniques, revealing intricate patterns of connectivity that mirror descriptions found in ancient spiritual texts. These neural distributions create a hierarchical system of information processing that extends from the brainstem through the limbic system and up to the neocortex. This ascending pattern mirrors the spiritual concept of rising consciousness, where awareness moves from basic survival functions to higher states of being. The claustrum's position within this network suggests its role as a master coordinator, integrating information from various sensory and cognitive domains into a unified conscious experience. The relationship between these neural networks and states of enlightenment becomes particularly evident when examining meditation practitioners. Brain imaging studies have shown that long-term meditators exhibit enhanced connectivity within these networks, particularly in regions associated with self-awareness and emotional regulation. This scientific observation aligns with ancient teachings about the cultivation of higher consciousness through spiritual practices. Recent research has also revealed that the claustrum's activity correlates with attention and consciousness switches, supporting its role in orchestrating conscious experience. When the claustrum is artificially stimulated, consciousness can be disrupted, suggesting its crucial role in maintaining our conscious awareness. This finding provides a biological basis for understanding how altered states of consciousness might be achieved through various spiritual practices. The neuronal distribution networks extend beyond mere physical connections, incorporating complex chemical signaling systems that influence consciousness. These networks utilize neurotransmitters, including the sacred triad of dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin, to modulate states of awareness and spiritual experience. The claustrum's rich density of these neurotransmitter receptors further supports its role in consciousness regulation. Understanding these neural networks provides a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern science, revealing how spiritual experiences might arise from biological processes while maintaining their profound significance. The claustrum codes, once decoded, offer insights into how consciousness emerges from physical brain activity and how we might consciously influence these processes through spiritual practices. This knowledge enables a deeper appreciation of both the physical and spiritual dimensions of human consciousness, suggesting that the ancient mystics possessed profound insights into the nature of awareness and its biological foundations. The garden within. The concept of the Garden of Eden represents far more than a mythological paradise. It serves as an intricate metaphor for the neural landscape within our own minds. This internal garden, cultivated by consciousness and nourished by neurochemistry, contains remarkable parallels to the biblical account that reveal profound insights about our brain's architecture and function. Within this neural Eden, we find the anatomical correspondence of the biblical garden's key elements. The river that flows through Eden splits into 4 branches, much like the major neural pathways that distribute consciousness throughout our brain. These pathways carry vital neurotransmitters and bioelectric signals that maintain our awareness and regulate our physical and spiritual experiences. The tree of knowledge, central to the garden narrative, corresponds to the thalamus, which acts as a primary sensory relay station and consciousness gateway. The cherubim, described as guardians with flaming swords protecting Eden's entrance, represent the natural protective mechanisms within our brain chemistry. These neurological gatekeepers regulate which signals pass through and which are blocked, maintaining the delicate balance of our consciousness. The anatomical correlates of these guardians can be found in the blood-brain barrier and various neurotransmitter systems that carefully control access to different brain regions. The forbidden fruit itself symbolizes premature access to higher states of consciousness without proper preparation or understanding. This correlates to modern neuroscience's discovery of how certain compounds can dramatically alter consciousness, yet might prove harmful without proper context or preparation. The wisdom traditions have long understood this delicate balance, creating elaborate initiation systems to prepare aspirants for expanded awareness. Eastern traditions speak of the garden as an inner sanctuary accessed through meditation and spiritual practice. This corresponds to modern understanding of how contemplative practices affect brain chemistry, particularly in regions associated with self, awareness, and transcendent experiences. The garden state of perfect harmony represents the ideal balance of neurotransmitters and brain function that creates optimal consciousness. The serpent in the garden, often viewed as a negative figure, can be understood as the kundalini energy that rises through the spine, potentially bringing either illumination or disruption depending on how it is approached. This correlates to modern understanding of how the nervous system can be activated in ways that profoundly affect consciousness and perception. The concept of tending the garden takes on new meaning when we understand it as the conscious cultivation of healthy brain chemistry and neural patterns. Just as a garden requires regular attention and care, our internal landscape needs proper nutrition, rest, and spiritual practice to maintain its optimal state. The wisdom traditions have always taught that this inner cultivation is essential for spiritual growth and enlightenment. Modern neuroscience has revealed how environmental factors, thoughts, and behaviors directly influence our brain chemistry and neural connections. This scientific understanding adds depth to ancient teachings about maintaining the purity and balance of our inner garden. The practice of meditation, prayer, and contemplation can be understood as sophisticated methods for maintaining optimal neurochemical balance and promoting healthy neural development. The garden symbolism extends to the concept of spiritual cultivation and growth. Just as plants in a garden develop from seeds through various stages of growth, our consciousness evolves through different levels of awareness and understanding. This process is supported by specific neurochemical changes and the development of new neural pathways, demonstrating how spiritual growth has tangible physical correlates in brain structure and function. By understanding these correspondences between the biblical Garden of Eden and our neural anatomy, we gain practical insights into maintaining and developing our consciousness. This knowledge allows us to work more effectively with our own brain chemistry and better understand the profound wisdom encoded in ancient spiritual teachings. The Tree of Life unveiled. The ancient symbol of the Tree of Life represents far more than a mythological construct. It serves as a profound metaphor for our intricate nervous system and its role in consciousness. Within our bodies exists a complex network that mirrors this sacred tree, with roots extending downward through our spinal column and branches reaching upward through our neural pathways, creating an incredible living system that connects body, mind, and spirit. The nervous system, like the biblical Tree of Life, stands as a central pillar in human existence, facilitating communication between every cell and organ while simultaneously serving as a bridge between physical matter and consciousness. The main trunk of this biological tree is our spinal cord, protected by 33 vertebrae, a number that appears repeatedly in sacred texts and mystical traditions. From this central column emerge 31 pairs of spinal nerves, branching outward like the legendary tree's limbs, carrying life-giving signals throughout our entire being. Modern neuroscience has mapped these neural pathways with increasing precision, revealing patterns that ancient mystics somehow intuited thousands of years ago. The dendrites of our neurons, when viewed under a microscope, display the same branching patterns found in trees, suggesting a universal design principle that connects the macrocosm with the microcosm with the microcosm. This observation aligns perfectly with the Hermetic axiom as above, so below, which appears in various forms across multiple spiritual traditions. The Tree of Life's biblical description in Genesis speaks of it bearing 12 manner of fruits, yielding its fruit every month. This correlates remarkably with the 12 cranial nerves and the monthly cycles of neurochemical production in our bodies. The pineal gland, often called the forbidden fruit by esoteric scholars, produces melatonin in rhythmic cycles that mirror these monthly patterns, regulating our consciousness and connecting us to natural cycles. Our neural network contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each capable of forming thousands of connections with other cells. This vast communication network creates a living matrix that processes information and generates consciousness in ways that modern science is only beginning to understand. The Tree of Life's description as being in the midst of the garden parallels the central role our nervous system plays in maintaining life and awareness. The biblical account describes the Tree of Life as being guarded by cherubim with flaming swords after humanity's fall from grace. This imagery might represent the blood-brain barrier, a sophisticated biological defense system that protects our neural tissue from potentially harmful substances while allowing beneficial nutrients to pass through. This selective barrier serves as a guardian of our most precious neural functions, just as the cherubim guarded the path to eternal life. Within our neural architecture, we find an elegant system of communication that employs electrical impulses and chemical messengers. These neurotransmitters, including our three primary focuses, dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin, flow through our neural pathways like the rivers described in Eden. They nurture our consciousness and facilitate our experience of reality, much as the mythical tree's fruit was said to sustain eternal life. The Tree of Life symbol appears in numerous cultural traditions, from the Norse Yggdrasil to the Kabbalah's Sephirotic tree, each offering unique insights into the nature of consciousness and its physical substrate. These various interpretations share common themes that align surprisingly well with our current understanding of neurological function and structure. The ancient wisdom encoded in these symbols suggests that our ancestors possessed profound insights into the nature of consciousness and its biological foundations. As we continue to explore the intersection of neuroscience and spiritual wisdom, the Tree of Life serves as a powerful framework for understanding the relationship between our physical nervous system and the emergence of consciousness. It reminds us that the quest for enlightenment is not merely a spiritual journey, but also a biological process rooted in the sacred chemistry of our neural networks. The chemistry of change. The profound relationship between sacred oils, neurochemical interactions, and consciousness transformation has fascinated both ancient mystics and modern scientists. The phenomenon known as the Christ oil, a term that describes the mystical secretions of the brain's primary glands, represents one of the most intriguing aspects of sacred brain chemistry. This golden essence, produced through specific meditative and spiritual practices, creates a cascade of neurochemical changes that can fundamentally alter human consciousness. The Christ oil phenomenon begins in the hypothalamus, where specialized neurons produce a unique combination of neuropeptides and hormones. This golden fluid descends through the nervous system, creating what ancient texts referred to as the river of life. Modern research has identified this substance as a complex mixture of cerebrospinal fluid enriched with specialized proteins, neurotransmitters, and hormones that possess remarkable properties for enhancing neural function and promoting heightened states of awareness. When this sacred fluid interacts with various brain regions, it initiates a series of biochemical reactions that affect consciousness. The thalamus, often called the seat of consciousness, becomes more receptive to subtle energetic influences. The pineal gland, activated by this golden essence, increases its production of DMT dimethyltryptamine and other consciousness-altering compounds. The pituitary gland responds by releasing a precise blend of hormones that further enhance this transformative process. The interaction between these sacred fluids and neural tissues creates a unique environment for consciousness expansion. As the Christ oil flows through the ventricular system of the brain, it bathes neural tissues in a nutrient-rich solution that promotes neuroplasticity and enhances synaptic connections. This process has been linked to experiences of enlightenment, profound insight, and expanded awareness reported by mystics throughout history. Scientific research has begun to unveil the mechanisms behind these transformative chemical interactions. Studies have shown that specific meditation practices can alter the composition of cerebrospinal fluid, increasing levels of beneficial compounds such as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, DNU, and other neurotropic factors. These changes support neural growth, enhance cognitive function, and promote states of heightened awareness and spiritual connection. The sacred fluid interactions extend beyond the brain to influence the entire nervous system. As the Christ oil descends through the spinal column, it activates specialized nerve centers traditionally known as chakras. This activation creates a synchronized wave of electrical and chemical signals that harmonize neural activity throughout the body. Modern neuroscience has confirmed that this process can lead to increased coherence in brainwave patterns and enhanced integration between different neural networks. The neurochemical transformation facilitated by these sacred fluids involves multiple interdependent processes. The initial release of the Christ oil triggers a cascade of secondary chemical reactions, including the production of endogenous opioids, cannabinoids, and other neurotransmitters associated with mystical experiences and altered states of consciousness. This chemical symphony creates the biological foundation for transcendent experiences and spiritual insights. Understanding the chemistry of change requires acknowledging the delicate balance between various neurotransmitter systems. The interaction between dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin plays a crucial role in this transformative process. When these systems are properly activated and balanced through spiritual practices, they create an internal environment conducive to profound personal transformation and spiritual awakening. The ancient wisdom traditions understood these processes intuitively, developing practices and techniques to activate and optimize these sacred chemical interactions. Modern science now provides the framework to understand these processes at a molecular level, offering validation for many traditional practices while suggesting new approaches for enhancing their effectiveness. This convergence of ancient wisdom and modern understanding opens new possibilities for conscious evolution and spiritual development in the 21st century. Ancient wisdom, modern science. Throughout history, humanity has sought to understand profound mysteries of consciousness and spiritual awakening. Ancient civilizations left behind intricate texts and teachings that, when examined through the lens of modern neuroscience, reveal remarkable insights into the human brain and its capacity for transcendent experiences. Historical documentation from various cultures shows striking similarities in their understanding of consciousness and spiritual transformation. The Egyptian mystery schools taught about the sacred secretions of the brain, describing them in symbolic terms that closely parallel our modern understanding of neurotransmitters. Their hieroglyphic representations of the pineal and pituitary glands, often depicted as sacred eyes or divine serpents, demonstrate a sophisticated grasp of neural anatomy that predates modern scientific discovery by millennia. Similarly, ancient Hindu texts describe the chakra system and kundalini energy in terms that correlate remarkably well with our current knowledge of the central nervous system and cerebrospinal fluid dynamics. The Vedic understanding of consciousness states and their relationship to specific brain regions shows an advanced comprehension of neuroanatomy that modern science is only beginning to verify through technological means. Scientific validation of these ancient teachings continues to emerge through contemporary research. Studies using advanced imaging techniques have confirmed the existence of specific neural networks and brain structures that ancient texts described metaphorically. For instance, the recent discovery of the glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance mechanism, validates ancient teachings about celestial fluids and their role in consciousness. The field of psychoneuroendocrinology has provided substantial evidence supporting the traditional understanding of the relationship between consciousness states and brain chemistry. Research into meditation and mindfulness practices has demonstrated measurable changes in brain structure and function, confirming what ancient practitioners have long maintained about the transformative power of spiritual practices. Modern neuroscience has also validated many traditional practices for altering consciousness. The effects of breathwork, meditation, and ceremonial practices on brainwave patterns, neurotransmitter levels, and neural connectivity provide scientific explanations for experiences that mystics have described for centuries. The discovery of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself, offers a scientific framework for understanding the transformational experiences described in ancient spiritual texts. The bridge between spirituality and neuroscience becomes increasingly solid as research continues to validate traditional wisdom. The ancient understanding of the pineal gland as the seat of the soul finds scientific support in studies of its role in consciousness regulation and circadian rhythms. The traditional emphasis on the spine's importance in spiritual awakening aligns with our understanding of the central nervous system's role in consciousness and perception. Archaeological evidence continues to uncover artifacts and texts that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of neural anatomy in ancient cultures. From Mesopotamian tablets to Chinese medical texts, we find detailed descriptions of brain function that, while couched in metaphorical language, show remarkable accuracy when translated into modern scientific terms. The convergence of ancient wisdom and modern science offers exciting possibilities for advancing our understanding of consciousness and spiritual development. By combining traditional practices with scientific insight, we can develop more effective methods for consciousness expansion and spiritual growth. This synthesis allows us to appreciate the profound wisdom of ancient teachings while benefiting from the precision and verification methods of modern science. The harmonious integration of these two approaches, the ancient and the modern, creates a more complete understanding of human consciousness and its potential for transformation. As we continue to bridge these seemingly disparate fields, we discover that the ancients possessed profound insights into the nature of consciousness and its relationship to brain chemistry, insights that are increasingly validated by modern scientific investigation. Activating the three magic. The practical application of sacred brain chemistry requires a delicate understanding of how to optimize and balance our internal chemical messengers. The three primary neurotransmitters, dopamine, melatonin, and serotonin, can be naturally enhanced through specific practices that honor both their individual and collective roles in consciousness expansion. Dopamine optimization begins with mindful attention to our daily rhythms and reward systems. The first magus responds powerfully to purposeful action, achievement, and the completion of meaningful tasks. Regular physical movement, especially activities that involve cross-body coordination, stimulates healthy dopamine production. Creative pursuits, whether artistic expression or problem-solving, engage the brain's reward pathways. Setting and achieving small, progressive goals creates a positive feedback loop that maintains optimal dopamine levels without falling into addictive patterns. The enhancement of melatonin production requires a deep respect for natural cycles and rhythms. This second magus thrives in darkness and responds to the ancient patterns of day and night. Reducing exposure to artificial light, especially blue light from electronic devices, in the evening hours allows for natural melatonin production. Creating a sacred sleep environment free from electromagnetic disturbances supports the pineal gland's natural rhythms. Traditional practices like watching the sunset, moon gazing, and star contemplation activate melatonin pathways while connecting us to cosmic cycles. Serotonin balance methods incorporate both physical and spiritual practices. This third magus responds to sunlight, physical movement, and positive social interactions. Morning sun exposure, particularly during the first hour after waking, helps establish healthy serotonin production. Conscious breathing exercises, especially those incorporating specific rhythms and patterns, influence serotonin levels through the vagus nerve. Regular consumption of foods rich in tryptophan combined with complex carbohydrates provides the building blocks for serotonin production. The integration of these three chemical messengers requires attention to timing and sequence. Morning practices focus on serotonin activation through sunlight exposure and movement. Midday activities emphasize dopamine optimization through purposeful action and achievement. Evening practices support the natural transition to melatonin production through reduced stimulation and sacred darkness. Ancient breathing techniques, when practiced with understanding of their chemical effects, can influence all three neurotransmitters. The practice of alternate nostril breathing helps balance the autonomic nervous system, while specific breath retention techniques influence pineal gland activation. Guided visualization practices, especially those incorporating sacred geometry and color, can stimulate specific neural pathways associated with each of the three magi. Sound frequencies play a crucial role in neurotransmitter production and balance. Specific musical notes and rhythms correspond to different brain states and chemical responses. The use of sacred chants, mantras, and harmonic frequencies can create resonance patterns that support optimal neurotransmitter function. Traditional instruments like singing bowls, gongs, and drums can be used strategically to influence different aspects of brain chemistry. Physical postures and movements, when practiced with awareness of their neurochemical effects, become powerful tools for activating the three magi. Specific yoga poses influence different endocrine glands and their associated neurotransmitter production. The practice of mudras, sacred hand positions, creates subtle electrical circuits that influence brain chemistry through the body's meridian system. The environment plays a crucial role in supporting these practices. Creating sacred space through the use of specific colors, shapes, and symbols can enhance the effectiveness of chemical optimization techniques. The use of natural elements, crystals, plants, and essential oils provides subtle energetic support for neurotransmitter balance. Traditional incense compounds, particularly frankincense and myrrh, contain chemical compounds that influence brain chemistry when inhaled. Through conscious application of these practices, modern seekers can create a daily rhythm that honors and activates the three magi within. This practical approach to sacred brain chemistry allows for the integration of ancient wisdom with contemporary understanding, creating a bridge between spiritual practice and neurological optimization. Sacred integration. The convergence of ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience creates a powerful framework for understanding consciousness and personal transformation. Throughout history, mystics and spiritual practitioners have developed methods for accessing higher states of consciousness, and today we can understand these practices through the lens of neurochemistry and brain function. The integration of sacred practices with our scientific understanding begins with meditation, a cornerstone technique that influences our brain's chemical landscape. When we meditate, we activate specific neural pathways that trigger the release of neurotransmitters associated with well-being and expanded awareness. The ancient practitioners may not have known about serotonin or dopamine, but they recognized the profound effects of their spiritual practices on consciousness and perception. Modern research has shown that consistent meditation practice increases gray matter density in brain regions associated with learning, memory, and emotional regulation. This physical transformation of the brain mirrors the spiritual transformation described in ancient texts. The practice of mindfulness meditation, for instance, activates the prefrontal cortex while reducing activity in the amygdala, creating a state of calm awareness that ancient mystics described as divine consciousness. The synthesis of breath work with modern understanding of brain chemistry reveals another layer of sacred integration. Ancient pranayama techniques directly influence the autonomic nervous system, triggering specific neurotransmitter releases that alter consciousness. By controlling our breath patterns, we can intentionally shift our brain chemistry, moving from states of high arousal to deep tranquility. This demonstrates how ancient practitioners intuitively developed methods to influence their internal chemistry long before the scientific understanding of these processes existed. Sound vibration, another traditional practice, has been shown to affect brainwave patterns and neurotransmitter production. The use of sacred chants, mantras, and specific frequencies creates measurable changes in brain activity. Modern science has verified that certain sound frequencies can induce meditative states, align neural firing patterns, and promote the release of beneficial neurochemicals. This validates the ancient use of sound as a tool for consciousness expansion and spiritual development. The practice of visualization, common in many spiritual traditions, can now be understood through its effects on brain chemistry and neural pathway activation. When we engage in visualization exercises, we activate many of the same neural networks involved in actual physical experiences. This explains why traditional practices involving detailed imagery of divine beings or sacred geometries can create profound shifts in consciousness and perception. Movement practices, such as sacred dance or ceremonial gestures, integrate body awareness with spiritual intention. These practices influence proprioception and interoception, our internal awareness of body position and state, while simultaneously affecting neurotransmitter production and distribution. The combination of movement, breath, and intention creates a powerful matrix for consciousness transformation that bridges ancient wisdom with modern understanding. The role of community and collective practice, emphasized in many spiritual traditions, finds support in our understanding of mirror neurons and social bonding chemistry. Group meditation and ritual practices trigger the release of oxytocin and other prosocial neurochemicals, enhancing the individual experience while creating stronger group coherence. This biological understanding explains why many sacred practices were designed to be performed in community settings. Modern practitioners can enhance their spiritual practice by understanding these neurochemical processes while maintaining reverence for the sacred nature of consciousness transformation. By combining traditional techniques with knowledge of brain chemistry, we can create more effective practices for consciousness expansion. This integration allows us to honor both the wisdom of ancient traditions and the insights of modern science, creating a more complete approach to spiritual development. Sacred integration requires us to maintain a balance between analytical understanding and direct experience. While knowledge of neurochemistry can inform our practice, the actual experience of expanded consciousness transcends mere chemical processes. This paradox mirrors the relationship between the physical brain and the metaphysical experience of consciousness itself, reminding us that true wisdom embraces both scientific knowledge and spiritual mystery. The modern mystic's path. The journey of the modern mystic represents a unique fusion of ancient wisdom and contemporary understanding, creating a bridge between timeless spiritual truths and cutting-edge neuroscience. In today's fast-paced world, the integration of sacred brain chemistry into daily life requires both dedication and practical awareness. The modern mystic understands that consciousness expansion isn't limited to meditation cushions or sacred spaces, but can be cultivated throughout everyday experiences. The foundation of this modern path begins with morning practices that activate the three magi within our sacred anatomy. Upon waking, gentle stretching combined with conscious breathing stimulates the spinal fluid's movement, activating the thalamus, pineal, and pituitary glands. This morning, ritual sets the stage for enhanced neurochemical balance throughout the day. Many practitioners find success with brief period of sun gazing during the safe hours of sunrise, which naturally regulates melatonin production and strengthens the pineal gland's function. Throughout the day, the modern mystic maintains awareness of their neurochemical state through mindful practices. This includes conscious eating habits that support optimal dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin production. Foods rich in tryptophan, tyrosine, and natural melatonin precursors become not just nutrition, but sacred sustenance for the brain's divine chemistry. Regular movement practices, particularly those involving the spine, help distribute these neurochemicals effectively throughout the body's systems. The integration of sacred chemistry extends beyond physical practices into emotional and mental awareness. Modern mystics understand that thoughts and emotions directly influence brain chemistry, and they cultivate positive mental states through various techniques. These might include mantras adapted for contemporary life, mindful breathing exercises during work breaks, or brief meditation sessions that can be performed anywhere. The key is consistency rather than duration, as even short practices can significantly impact neurochemical balance. Technology, often seen as an obstacle to spiritual growth, can be transformed into a tool for sacred practice. Apps that track meditation sessions, remind us to take conscious breaks, or guide us through breathing exercises can support our modern mystical path. However, The wise practitioner maintains a balance, using technology as a servant rather than allowing it to become a master of their spiritual practice. Community plays a vital role in the modern mystic's journey. While ancient mystical practices were often solitary pursuits, today's practitioners benefit from both physical and virtual communities that support their growth. These connections provide opportunities for knowledge sharing, accountability, and collective consciousness expansion. The understanding of sacred brain chemistry becomes richer through shared experiences and insights. The future implications of this path are profound. As more individuals awaken to the reality of their internal chemistry and its connection to consciousness, we may witness a transformation in how humanity approaches both spirituality and science. The modern mystic stands at the forefront of this evolution, demonstrating through their daily practice that the ancient wisdom of the three magi is more relevant than ever in our contemporary world. Looking ahead, the continued integration of neuroscience and spirituality promises new discoveries and deeper understanding. The modern mystic remains open to these developments while staying grounded in the timeless wisdom of sacred anatomy. This balance between innovation and tradition, science and spirituality, creates a sustainable path for consciousness evolution in our rapidly changing world. The path of the modern mystic is one of practical enlightenment, where every moment offers an opportunity for sacred awareness and neurochemical optimization. Through consistent practice, conscious living, and community connection, we create the conditions for expanded consciousness while navigating contemporary life. The three magi continue their eternal journey within us, guided by both ancient wisdom and modern understanding, leading us toward ever greater awareness of our divine potential.